The wolves that circle the edges of the village are no longer distant shadows. Their cries, once faint and far away, now feel like a presence just beyond the walls. A reminder of the savage world that waits outside. There is no longer safety in numbers. Every step in this village is a calculation, a silent trade between survival and the sacrifices of the soul. Should they give up their last piece of bread, their last piece of warmth, or hold on to it in the hope that tomorrow will bring a miracle? But there are no miracles. Only the long, silent march of time. A cruel clock ticking away each breath, each hope. Once full of hope, now beats in time with the growing darkness. She watches as the fire in the hearth dies to a faint glow. The village has fallen into silence, save for the whispers of the wind. In the stillness, the world seems to close in, pressing down on her like a weight she cannot escape. Her thoughts wander, carried by the whispers of the wind through the cracks in the walls. She wonders how much longer they can hold on. She wonders how much longer she can, but Alira refuses to give in. In the shadows, beneath the weight of hunger and fear, she still clings to the fragile thread of hope. It is the last thing left to her, this small, trembling hope, and she will hold on to it, no matter how faint it
presses
grows.
in, thick with cold and silence, and yet Alira stands there, staring up at the sky. The stars, hidden behind a thick blanket of clouds, seem to mock her. Heaven, too, has turned its back on them. The weight of it presses upon her chest, heavier than the cold, heavier than hunger. In the silence, she feels it, a deep, echoing grief that wraps itself around her heart. The heavens grieve with them. The heavens, too, mourn the forgotten. And yet, even as the coal seeps into her bones, even as the wolves call from the darkened woods, Alira's soul deepens. The wind outside howls with a new fury, but inside, in the quiet of this forgotten village, there is still a flicker of light, a flame that refuses to die, and Alira, standing alone in the stillness, watches that flame, her heart bound to it, knowing that the story of this place is not yet finished, not yet over. For now it is enough. Beneath a sky forever shrouded in ash and dust, the once proud village stands in solemn silence. Its spirit all but extinguished. The earth, once fertile and full of life, now lies sick, barren, beaten by ceaseless rain that falls like tears from a weeping sky. The mud beneath Thomas's boots clings with a cold, suffocating grip, as though even the land itself mourns the loss of its own vitality. Each footstep is heavy, each breath a struggle against the weight of an existence that has been slowly, cruelly choked by famine and time. Language, English, smells of wet earth and decay, of rot and life slipping through desperate fingers. Even the trees, which once promised shade and fruit, stand stripped, their branches brittle and lifeless. Not even the birds sing here anymore. In the distance, the abbey rises against the grim sky, a broken silhouette, a relic of faith now shattered and forgotten. The walls that once housed prayers and the soft murmur of pilgrims are now cold and empty. Its stained glass windows, once vibrant with the light of devotion, are cracked and dusted with the same ash that chokes the village. The bells, once clear and strong, that rang to summon the faithful to prayer, now hang in silence, their chains rusted and weary, gnawing at the air with the faintest of echoes, an echo of hunger, of suffering, of days that will never return. The village elder,
walks alone beneath the weight of the village's history. His long white beard, now tangled and streaked with dirt, brushes against his frayed cloak. His steps are slow but purposeful, each one carved into the mud, each one dragging the years with it. His hands, scarred by decades of labor, clutch the staff that has become both his guide and his anchor. This staff, weathered and worn, has borne witness to the suffering of countless seasons, each one harsher than the last. But Thomas is not yet defeated. The crumbling village may have forgotten its place in the world, but he remembers. He remembers when the bells tolled not for sorrow, but for feasts, for the joy of the harvest, for the sound of children laughing in the streets.
Those same streets are empty, save for the wind that whispers through the ruins.
The children, the lifeblood of this place, have begun to disappear.
Some have ventured into the neighboring kingdoms, driven by hunger to seek a life elsewhere.
Others fade into the grey landscape, swallowed by the silence that hangs over them all. Thomas' mind flickers to the past, to the days when the abbey's bells rang with the rhythm of life. When there was food, when there was joy, when hope had weight and faith had substance. But now, that hope is as distant as the stars. Yet Thomas refuses to yield. He will not let this place be consumed by oblivion, by the insidious quiet that has spread like a sickness through the village. He knows that salvation is not a promise anymore. It is a fragile thing, an illusion. But understanding, that is something he can see.
Trembling hands, he kneels in the damp earth, the prayer rising from his cracked lips like a faint cry in the vast emptiness. He does not ask for salvation. He does not seek the grandeur of his youth. What he prays for now is something simpler, something far more profound. To be remembered, to have this land, this forsaken village, acknowledged for the suffering it endures, so the lives that once thrived here, for the spirit that refuses to break. His prayer is not loud. It does not demand. It is the quiet plea of a man who has learned that not every wound can be healed, and not every prayer can be answered. But it is a prayer nonetheless. And as Thomas rises to his feet, the wind shifts, carrying with it a cold gust that sweeps through the village like a sigh of memory, of loss, and of something much deeper, something Thomas cannot yet name. Fading light of the day, Thomas stands alone among the ruins, his heart heavy with the weight of what has been lost and what remains. The silence around him is both suffocating and sacred, a reverence for the forgotten, for the lives that once filled these streets with laughter and song. And though the village may fade, though the crops may fail, and the children may vanish, Thomas knows this truth. The earth will not forget. The earth, the wind, the bones of this place, they will remember. As the last light of the day fades into twilight, Thomas casts one final glance at the abbey in the distance. The bells are silent, but in his heart, he hears them still, faint, distant, but never fully gone. The night is coming, but with it, a new hope may rise. For in this place of ruin, in the heart of this desolation, there remains a flicker of faith that refuses to be extinguished. Thomas continues forward, a man alone in his memory, but not in his faith. And as he steps into the shadow of the abbey, there is a question that lingers in the still air. What is it, after all, that will endure when everything else falls away? The forest around the village is still, its trees ancient and heavy with the weight of frost. The air is thick with silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of branches,
bending beneath the cold. A shadow moves through the underbrush, the crunch of frozen earth beneath her boots, barely audible against the overwhelming stillness. She is a figure both out of place and yet deeply familiar to this forsaken land. Melis, once a noble woman of the court, now walks with the ragged gait of a scavenger. Her fine woolen gown now nothing but tatters, stained by mud, sweat, and the tears of seasons. Far from the luxuries she once knew, the feasts, the laughter, the warmth of hearths that were always full. Those days are but ghosts, fading with each step she takes deeper into the woods. Her hands, once soft and graceful, now bear the roughness of survival. The delicate skin is cracked, her fingers stiff from the bitter chill, worn from months of searching through the wreckage of a world that have forgotten how to be kind. She is no longer the woman who moved with grace and purpose in the courts of the rich. Now, she searches for anything that might sustain her. For herbs, for roots, for scraps of food that might fill the aching void in her stomach. But the forest offers no mercy. The damp leaves, once lush and full of life, now lie heavy and decayed, their scent a cruel reminder that even nature is exhausted. The earth itself seems to mourn, its roots tangled in the sorrow of a world that has forgotten its roots with purpose, though her heart is weighted with guilt. The guilt of a life lived in excess, a life of privilege taken for granted. She had never known hunger, not like this, not in the raw, gnawing way it sinks into your bones. Now, she is no different from the villagers who once served her, who once looked to her for grace. Now, it is they who depend on her, on the scraps she finds, on the small fragments of hope she can offer. She has nothing left to give. Nothing but the empty promises of a future that no longer seems possible. The village, once vibrant and full of laughter, now lies cloaked in a heavy silence. The sounds of children playing, the chatter of mothers in the market, the hum of life, these are memories now, echoes that haunt the stillness. The villagers move like shadows in their own homes, their voices no longer strong, but whispered, as if speaking too loudly might awaken the hunger that lies within them. Language, eyes are dull now, drained of vitality, of hope. Hunger has become their constant companion, their only reality. They are living on the edge of nothing, teetering on the brink of despair. As Melis continues her search through the snow-dusted underbrush, her thoughts are heavy, burdened by the weight of what she once had and what she has lost. She is no longer searching for food alone. She is searching for something deeper, a glimmer of life, a sign that there is still something worth fighting for. Perhaps she hopes to find some part of herself in the wreckage, some piece of the world that will remind her of the person she used to be. But there is nothing. The forest offers no comfort, no answer. As if the very earth hath decided to speak, she stumbles upon something. A figure, small and frail, standing alone in the clearing. The child is holding something in her arms, a bundle of firewood, the last flicker of warmth in a dying world. Her face is hollow, her eyes empty, as if the weight of the world hath already taken root inside her. She asks for nothing more than warmth, the simplest of desires in a world that hath forgotten how to give. The fire she holds is small, fragile, yet it burns with a quiet defiance, a flame that refuses to be extinguished by the cold that surrounds them both. In that moment, something shifts within Melis. The guilt she carries, the weight of her past, the struggle to survive, all of it falls away. There is no salvation to be found in gold or power. Not here, not now. She sees it in the child's eyes, the silent plea for warmth, for connection, for a fleeting moment of comfort in a world that hath none to offer. Language,
It is not riches
English.
that can save them. It is not the weight of titles or the hollow echo of courtly laughter. It is this, the quiet solidarity of those who choose to endure, even when the world offers them nothing. Melis kneels beside the girl, her hands trembling, not from the cold, but from something deeper, something that she has not felt in years. A bond, fragile but undeniable, forms between them. She shares her firewood, the last of her hope, the last of her strength. The warmth that rises from the small flame fills the air, not just with heat, but with a sense of unity, of shared suffering, of lives intertwined by the same desperate need to survive. There is no heroism in this act, no grand gesture, only the simple, quiet truth. They will endure, or they will die As the
together.
fire crackles in the silence, Melis gazes at the child, her face illuminated by the flickering light. There is no glory in survival, no reward for those who struggle through the dark. But in this moment, as they sit together by the fire, a new understanding dawns. Perhaps this is enough, this small act of kindness, this brief moment of warmth, in a world that hath forgotten its meaning. Perhaps in the end, this is the true test of endurance, not the wealth we amass, nor the power we wield, but the strength to remain human, to offer even the smallest flicker of hope when everything else hath faded into shadow. The wind picks up, howling through the trees once more, but it cannot reach them here by the fire. For now, at least, they are safe. But the world outside, the world of hunger and decay, still waits. What will become of them when the last of the firewood is gone? What will become of all of them when the darkness of this famine finally swallows them whole? Questions linger in the stillness, unanswered, as Melis and the child sit together, a fire between them, burning just a little longer than it should. The bell tolls again, distant and hollow, its sound drifting through the night air like the last breath of a world long lost. Garen stirs, his eyes opening slowly, the weight of a troubled sleep still heavy on him. He lies in the shadows of his home, the flickering light of a single candle casting long. Trembling shadows across the cold, barren walls. The bell's echo is a cruel reminder, a reminder of a promise made, of days long past, of a time when life was full of hope and purpose. But now, the rhythm of the bell is broken, mismatched, as though it too is grieving the loss of what once was. It tolls not for joy, not for prayer, but for the decay that hath seeped into the very bones of the village. His chest tight as the sound fades into the stillness of the night. The forge lies silent, its once proud hearth cold and empty. The tools that once rang out with the fierce clanging of creation are now dull, unused. The anvil, once alive with the pulse of industry, sits still, as lifeless as the ground outside. There is no more metal to shape, no work to be done. The fires that once burned with purpose and warmth have long since dimmed, their embers reduced to nothing more than a fading memory. And with the fires, so too has Garen's hope burned away. The weight of his responsibility hangs heavy on him. His hands, once strong and steady, now tremble with a weariness born not of age, but of something far darker, the crushing weight of survival in a world that is slowly slipping from their grasp. The days when the village would gather in the warmth of the forge, when the clang of hammer against anvil was the heartbeat of the town, a sound that filled the air with life. There was enough then, enough work, enough food, enough laughter to fill the streets. But those days are gone, lost to the relentless march of time, to the famine, to the silence that now pervades the village like a disease. The blacksmith's bell, once a steady pulse of the day, now tolls with a sadness that echoes through the empty streets. There is no more cheer in the bell's ring, no more hope. It tolls for the end of something, for the end of the village's soul.
Once a beacon of warmth and light in their home, now stands by the hearth, her eyes hollow and empty. Hunger hath gnawed at her, as it hath at all of them, stripping her of the vitality that once shone in her every glance. Her silence is deeper than the world outside, a quiet that speaks louder than any words could. She no longer laughs, no longer hums the songs she once sang while tending to the hearth. She merely waits for the next day to bring another handful of scraps, another whispered promise that this too shall pass. But Geron knows better. He knows that the days are no longer counted in seasons of hope. They are counted in slow, agonizing breaths, each one drawing them closer to the edge of despair.
There is their daughter. Once her laughter had filled the village alleys, her small feet running through the streets, a blur of life and light. But now the alleys are empty, save for the wind that blows through the narrow spaces, stirring the dust. Their daughter no longer runs. She no longer plays. There is nothing left to run for, nothing left to chase, but the shadows that stretch longer each day. The innocence that once defined her is fading, like the last embers of a fire consumed by the cold. Geron's heart aches with a sorrow so deep that it threatens to swallow him whole. Shifts toward the horizon, where the first light of dusk paints the sky with a palette of crimson and gray. The sun's final moments cast long shadows across the land, and for a brief moment, the world seems to hold its breath. It is a beautiful, haunting sight, the fading light spilling across the barren landscape, as if the very earth itself is mourning the loss of what has been. He wonders, as he has wondered every day, if beyond the dark woods that surround them, there is still a place where life endures. Somewhere beyond this suffocating silence, is there still a world where the forge's fires burn bright, where the blacksmith's bell rings not with sorrow, but with purpose? Somewhere where people still gather, where food is abundant, where laughter fills the air like it once did here. But as the sky darkens and the chill sets in, Geron knows that the answer may never come. The darkness presses in around him, and with it, a sense of finality, an understanding that the world they once knew may have already slipped away, swallowed by the silence that now defines their existence. He stands at the edge of that darkness, his heart heavy with the weight of what has been lost. But even so, he does not turn away. The bell tolls once more, its sound now fainter than before, lost in the vast emptiness of the night. But Geron stands unmoving, his eyes fixed on the horizon. There is no turning back. There is no place to run. The world hath changed, and with it, so too hath they. What comes next, Geron cannot say. What they will become, he cannot know. But he knows one thing. The fight is not over. Not yet. The bell may toll for sorrow, but as long as he stands, as long as the fire still flickers, howl down from the northern mountains, their toed fingers brushing against the earth, as they carry with them the scent of ice and ash. The wind is more than a sound here. It is a presence, an ancient spirit that seems to linger long after the storm has passed, leaving nothing but the bitter taste of what has been lost. The trees groan beneath the weight of the wind, their branches clawing at the sky, as if trying to hold on to something, anything. Beneath the swirling snow, a forgotten village lies buried in the silence of decay. Its once proud homes stand like broken shells, their walls crumbling, their roofs sagging under the weight of years. The only warmth here is the faint flicker of a torch, its flames struggling against the dark, casting long shadows that seem to stretch across the village, like ghosts of the past. Of this forgotten place stands an abandoned church, its stone walls worn and tired. The altar, once a place of reverence and light, now lies in disrepair, its gilded carvings dulled by neglect, the wood warped by the passage of time. The silence of this holy place is suffocating, broken only by the occasional gust of wind that rattles the windows like the skeletal fingers of those who once worshipped here. Yet beneath the weight of neglect, beneath the layers of dust and decay, there is a pulse, a rhythm that refuses to die, an ancient heartbeat that continues to echo through the very stones. This village, forsaken by the outside world, survives not because of any grand design, but because of this rhythm, this pulse that still beats in the hearts of the few who remain. Stands at the center of this struggle for survival, her presence as unyielding as the stone beneath her feet. She is a woman worn by years of hardship, her face etched with the marks of every battle the village has fought, against hunger, against the slow decay of the world around them, against the creeping silence that threatens to swallow them whole. Her hands, once soft and graceful, are now calloused and raw, the skin thickened by the unforgiving labor of survival. Each movement she makes, each gesture, carries with it the weight of 1,000 small sacrifices, 1,000 quiet decisions that have kept the village alive when it would have otherwise slipped into the shadows of history. She moves with a quiet determination, the kind that comes only when survival is no longer a choice, but a necessity. There is no mercy in the land she tills, no room for softness. Here, survival is not earned through kindness, but through endurance. Language, English itself, is unforgiving. The soil once rich and abundant, now cracked and dry. The fields that once yielded crops to feed the village lie barren, the earth itself exhausted as though it too has given everything it has. Yet Brianna does not give up. She knows that survival is not a gift. It is something you fight for every day. The tools she uses are as weathered as she is, their edges worn down by the passage of time, but they are still sharp, still useful. She works the land with a reverence that is born not from hope for the future, but from respect for the quiet resilience of the earth. She plants each seed in the dust, not with the belief that it will grow into something grand, but with the understanding that even the smallest seed can survive in the harshest of conditions. For Brianna, survival is not about thriving, but enduring. It is about finding strength in the struggle, finding meaning in the fight to stay alive when the world outside has forgotten language. Torchlight flickers and dances in the wind. Brianna pauses for a moment, her hands still in the dirt. The silence of the village presses in around her, but she is not alone. In the distance, she hears it, a cry, harsh and haunting, slicing through the heavy air, a raven's call.
The sound is raw and wild, a reminder of the creatures that still roam these lands untamed and free. The raven's wings beat against the wind, its shadow flickering against the crumbling walls of the village as it soars high above. To Brianna, the raven is a symbol of transformation, of life that refuses to be extinguished, of something that can still take flight even in the darkest of times. In its cry, she hears the echo of her own defiance, the refusal to let the world fall silent, to let it slip away without a fight.
Disappears into the horizon, its cry fading into the vast emptiness that surrounds them.
Brianna remains where she is,
Her hands still planted in the earth, her gaze fixed on the darkening sky. There is no comfort in this place, no promises of a better tomorrow. The land is empty, the air thick with the weight of the world's abandonment. But Brianna, like the raven, does not fear the darkness. She knows that life can still endure in the quiet spaces, in the places that are forgotten, in the hearts of those who refuse to give up. As the last light of day fades, the village lies silent once more. The torch flickers one last time before the darkness swallows it whole. Brianna stands alone in the quiet, the wind tugging at her cloak, but her feet remain rooted to the earth. She knows that the fight is not over. There is still work to be done, still survival to be earned.
The world outside may have forgotten her village, forgotten her people. She will not let them fade. She will not let them disappear into the shadows. The night presses in, and with it comes the uncertainty of the days to come. But Brianna's heart remains steady. The rhythm of life still beats here, in the silence of the land, in the pulse of those who refuse to give in. And as the raven's cry fades into the night, Brianna turns her gaze toward the horizon, knowing that the story of this village, of these people, is not finished yet. The bell may toll for the past, but it will not toll for them.
Heavy
Not
stillness
yet.
drapes over the village like a suffocating veil, its weight pressing down on every street, every home. The air, thick with an unspoken grief, carries a silence that speaks not of peace, but of mourning. Deep, suffocating mourning that clings to the very bones of this place. The once vibrant streets, where the sound of children's laughter and the clinking of coins filled the air, are now eerily empty. The shops, which once overflowed with goods, now stand shuttered, their windows dark and lifeless. The hearths, which once crackled with warmth, have long since gone cold. The market square, once the heart of this village, now echoes only with the wind as it sweeps through the cracked stones, scattering dust and the memories. The square stands Alaric, the village healer. His figure is solitary against the desolate backdrop, his eyes scanning the horizon, searching for something, anything, that might stir life back into this forgotten place. The scent of herbs and oils lingers on his fingers, a fleeting connection to the world that once was, to the hands that once healed with ease, with purpose. But now, those hands tremble, not from the weight of age, but from the crushing burden of loss. He is no stranger to suffering. He has seen the pain of his people, felt it in his bones, and eased it as best he could. But this emptiness is unbearable. The quiet of the village is not just the absence of sound, it is the absence of life, the absence of hope. The days when the village was full of laughter, full of movement. The air was thick with conversation, with joy, with purpose. His hands were busy then, healing the sick, mending the wounded, giving life where there was despair. The bell tower, once the symbol of the village's vitality, rang with the steady rhythm of a community united by hope.
But those days, those sounds, those faces, they are gone now. The bell no longer tolls for life, but for death. It no longer brings the promise of tomorrow, but the certainty of loss. The famine has drained them all, hollowed them out, leaving only bones and skin. And yet Alaric stands here, unmoving, as if the weight of the world has become his alone
As he gazes across the barren square.
The land, once fertile and abundant, is now a wasteland,
Just like the people who once called it home.
the disease, the hunger, the slow, inevitable death, they have taken so much. And yet, despite it all, Alaric cannot let go. In his heart, there is a flicker of resistance, a small, fragile flame of defiance that refuses to be extinguished by the cruel winds of fate.
He has spent countless nights tending to the sick and the dying,
Using the last of his herbs, the last of his knowledge, to ease their suffering. But it is never enough. The hunger continues to gnaw, the pain continues to burn, and each night, Alaric finds himself facing a new loss, a new emptiness.
Now, his greatest challenge is not the bodies that have withered under the weight of hunger,
But the souls that remain, the people who are not yet dead, but who are in many ways already gone, the ones whose eyes no longer spark with life, whose spirits have already fled, whose hope has been crushed beneath the weight of so many unbearable days. It is the souls of his people that haunt him now. They are the ones he cannot save. No herbs, no prayers, no potions can heal the damage done to their hearts. As the sun begins to dip behind the horizon, casting long, mournful shadows across the empty streets, Alaric turns away from the square, his heart heavy with the knowledge that this village, this place that once knew life, is now a place of ghosts. His steps are slow, each one heavy with the weight of the world, until he reaches the darkened doorway of his cottage. The silence wraps around him like a cloak, pressing in on him, suffocating him.
hesitates for a moment, his hand resting on the cold wood of the door, and then, with a quiet breath, he steps inside. The interior of his cottage is dim, lit only by the faint glow of a dying fire in the hearth.
The walls, once lined with shelves of dried herbs, now stand empty,
Their space taken by the emptiness of loss. His wife, once a strong presence in their home,
lies motionless by the fire, her face pale and drained of color. She has not spoken for days, her body too weak to carry her through the hours. The warmth of her love has faded, and with it, so much of Alaric's will to endure. But still, he holds on to something, some flicker of hope, some small reason to keep going.
Alaric kneels beside her,
His calloused hands brushing the hair from her forehead. He whispers a prayer for strength, for endurance, not just for himself, but for all who remain. He does not ask for salvation, nor for relief from the suffering that surrounds him. He simply asks for the strength to bear it, to endure one more day in this world that has become unrecognizable. The world outside may be crumbling, but here, in this small, dim room, Alaric clings to the last thread of life. He will endure.
as
He
rises.
must.
His eyes fall on the fading light outside, and the silence of the village presses in once more.
The bell, somewhere in the distance, tolls again, faint and distant, but its sound lingers in his ears. It is not the bell of hope, but the bell of mourning, of a world that has lost its way. Yet even as the darkness gathers around him, Alaric knows one thing. The fight is not over. Not yet. The village may be crumbling, but there is still life here, still breath.
still the faintest flicker of hope. And as long as that flicker remains, as long as there is breath in his body, Alaric will not stop. He will endure. Language, English.